Remember, guns don't kill people. Gargoyles do.
Who, where is that quote from?
It's from a special department in the police department in Chicago where crazy people think that they're doing something for good for people.
I always knew Chicago was a little bit dodgy. Now I've watched this show, I'm sure of it.
Hey, I've been there twice, man. You gotta go and watch that bean. It's like the best mirror you can watch yourself at.
Awesome.
Special Unit 2, the TV
It's
show. That's how you can find it.
Yeah, this is one. We were talking in the pre-show about this, and this is one of the shows that I love the show, and we'll get in details into the show, but I love the show for how funny it is, and it's just one of those shows. It's an old show. We can't really find anywhere. You could actually search it on YouTube if you want to watch it. You can watch it there, but it's not one of those things that I can stream in Netflix or actually buy from anywhere. And it's a little frustrating because I really love the show. And I would
It
have
was
to
quite
say
the interesting documentary.
I would have to
Darwin half
say
right
to
of it,
you guys,
half of it
thank
right.
you for putting up with me because I really wanted to do this and you guys were good sport and watching this and thank you. Thank you for that. I
You owe
hope
me
you
45 minutes.
Oh, so before we get into details, um, we should go into our segments.
Define science fiction remnant.
And you know the drill. If you like our pod and you know people that like sci fi as much as we do, how would you define us to them? And this is just an attempt to kind of unify sci-fi fans. And I don't know if you guys had any thoughts on this, Gio or Ray, but the idea, as I spoke before, was born from the fact that for some reason, I have a hard time defining us. So
Me not,
I'm
man.
I'm
This is
just
like
kind
a
of curious to
religion
see
to
what
me.
everybody thinks.
Man, to me, this is like going to church every Sunday, but I have lots of fun every time that I go. And I talk to my brothers.
I I have
I don't
never
see
heard
how
that
that relates
before.
to church exactly.
Yeah, man. I am like just letting go of the strains, so I'll just get weirder every episode. Get ready, guys.
Oh my
I'm happy with
god,
that.
Captain Chaos.
You're being
We
warned.
should we shouldn't be surprised.
Well, I can just say that I was engaging with some of our listeners during the week, and I had reason to make a statement on our behalf, and it was basically in a case of, well, we're not out to correct anybody's opinions. We just want to share the love of sci-fi and make people more aware of what's out there. And certainly, this episode will make you more aware of something that I had never heard of until Robert brought this one up, and quite likely, I mean, there's only 19 episodes, and it's I don't think it's particularly well known in the fact
Mhm.
that you can't really find it anywhere. So yeah, we're increasing your knowledge of sci-fi.
And I mean, just to second to Ray in there, like I think it's more about finding our commonalities, not our differences. That's the beautiful
Yeah,
Yeah,
thing of our community, you know.
yeah. And just like if you have listened to our show long since the very beginning in season one, we have spoke in a couple of episodes about this. We like the positive energy, you know. So that's why there's some topics that are off limits um, on our show as well as online when we interact with fans. So I don't want you to feel that I'm um, like ignoring you. It's just that those are topics that we complete. I mean, even in my personal life, my best friends know when they talk about something that I really don't want to talk about because it might create a negative feeling. Not necessarily, well, not including just us, but people around me. Then I choose to just ignore it and just concentrate on positive and the positive energy. Um, it's my life is short. See what I mean? And we choose to go for the positive energy and positive people. So I really wanted to mention that out and hope that we did not offend anyone on our interaction, because that's definitely not our
Well, you
intention.
hope that you and Ray did not offending anybody.
Hey, Robert.
Well,
Just
I'm
kidding.
not
Just
speaking
Robert.
for Captain Chaos.
Robert, I've got some news for you, mate. You
Yeah.
want some news? There are some people online that like to argue.
Yeah, I know, Captain Chaos.
No, I had an interaction with another hat on as one of the influencers in the Elite Army, and there was a guy who was talking about the movie, and he was claiming that it had nothing whatsoever to do with the source material. And I'm like, have you read the source material? And he came back to me and he said, are you saying that the movie's perfect? And I'm like, what? How did you get that from what I said? You're just trying to argue bait me. It's like, no, I'm not falling for that. Go
You should have been like, I
away.
don't answer close-ended questions.
Yeah. So
Dear.
the whole idea is basically something that Raid had said a while back about how sci-fi is meant to be, a positive experience. It's something that we enjoy. We should share, and that's if there's one thing that I wish you take away from this show is our love for sci-fi, and that's just what I say, love, and I like to share the love, and I want to hear your love for sci-fi as well. It's in a two-way street.
Yep.
Oh.
I love sci-fi just as much as I love my beer.
So that's why you tell people to hold your beer?
No, my beer, not my beard. That not many people can touch it. That's sensitive, man. That's like holding a crutch, not a grudge.
So in case you guys are wondering, me and Gio are two Florida men. So if you read the news,
From
you know
coast
what
to
I mean.
coast. Literally.
Two Florida men. How many news articles have you heard that start with two Florida men?
No, with two, no. But maybe we can be the first one to be two Florida men. No, two men's in a Florida. In a state. Two men's in a state. This is
Is
a
two
horrible.
Florida men double trouble?
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to laugh, just go online, and our listeners too. If you want to laugh, you're not for Florida, you probably know this already if you're US. But just look for a Florida man or a Florida woman, and you're gonna see the weirdest and most ridiculous headlines on news that you ever seen in your life. You can just
Yeah.
Google that shit, and you're gonna be just reading for hours.
It's a meme now.
The last one I read was about a woman attacking a police officer with a trained squirrel.
Well, at least she spent the time to train a squirrel. I mean, she could have
I've
just
read,
thrown a random squirrel at
I've
him.
read
She
weirder
made the
ones,
effort.
but I read weirder ones, but I don't want to exploit it being rated R here to do that.
What did she
Yes.
train the squirrel to do, though?
Oh, no.
That
There's
is the
another one that
question.
didn't use a squirrel.
Oh
She's a
God.
beaver.
So
The squirrel, not a beaver.
Oh, not the animal. I'm not gonna say more. No.
I think this is our cue to move on to the next
I'm playing the
segment.
straight man here.
Okay, here we go. We are Science Fiction Remnant.
This is the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
We are the Caribbean Science Fiction Network.
We are Monorats.
We are One Accord Level 2 Podcast.
This is Jesse from Sudden But Inevitable and Open Pike Night.
This is SYFY.
And in this segment, we basically want to showcase the hashtag and how important I feel it is for the sci-fi community. So the whole idea, as you have heard me in every episode, is we use this sci-fi. If you are a creator of any kind that does sci-fi content, use that hashtag. If you're a fan of sci-fi, of any type of sci-fi, use that hashtag. And the whole idea is, we share our love for content that we create. And as fans, which I am, I like to think one of the number one fans of sci-fi. I enjoy discovering new sci-fi content of any kind. So this in previous episodes, you have heard me talk about how hard it was for me at the beginning to kind of find a collective where you will find all topics of sci-fi being discussed. I usually had to jump around between, Star Trek, Star Wars, Galactica, but there was really nothing where everybody comes together and share their love. And I have to say, I'm really pleased since we started the hashtag because I definitely have heard of the bigger IPs that you can find. People that are Star Wars fanatic finding Star Trek and discovering, oh yeah, I heard Star Trek. And then you see in the conversation how people might speak about a particular Star Trek movie or particular Star Trek show enough that that person finds it curious enough to watch, and all of a sudden seeing that interactions with that Star Wars person's come back and say, whoa, that was a good thing. I think I'm going to start watching Star Trek going forward. And the opposite, I find Star Trek, there are like fanatics of Star Trek, and in here someone in the hashtag talk about Star Wars enough that they're curious enough, they go in there and it's like, oh my god, this was really good, I like it, I'm starting watching from now on. And that's the whole idea of our show, is sharing the love, sharing the sci-fi love. um uh, have you guys? What is your interaction on the hashtag for this week? I don't know who wants to go first. I'll go last.
Do go last, Rover.
Hmm?
Don't be nice guy. Nice guys finish last, man. No, I love engaging, and I shamelessly say when I am actually literate about something, or just watch two little episodes. Um, and you forgot to mention the third guy on that group, because there's a lot of lovers from Galactica too,
Yeah.
which is
No,
also
it
a
just
big property too, just as much as Star Trek and Star Wars. But it's actually interesting because sometimes they open their frontiers to experiment and watching something else, and they find out that love that you have for that show that you actually get depressed when you finish it because it's like your life's
yeah,
empty again. So, and I
yeah,
mean, that's the best feeling ever. Every time that I find a property of any kind that I feel like I have my life has purpose again, and then you actually are just dreading it's gonna come to an end, or those
yeah,
shows that I'm not gonna say the bad word, like XY that you make me watch knowing it was actually ended. So I was actually dreading every episode because it was getting better and better. I'm like, it's gonna end now.
You know
yeah,
what's the worst about that is if they've cut the show off in its prime and it was a cliffhanger. I hate that so much.
yeah. That's what they did with Kyle XY, and that's why I hate it
Yes.
so much. It ended in a cliffhanger. They were going to continue, and it just ended.
Just got intensive, man. Like the show
Kyle,
It
you
got
Kyle XY, that wasn't the one where the guy ended up in a new, like the chunky guy ended up in a new body.
no, this is a
no,
guy with
no,
no belly button.
nobody did.
One of
Yeah,
them.
it ended in a cliffhanger. It wasn't meant to end in a cliffhanger. The thing is that it got canned before
Yeah.
they can finish it up.
And
So
how many
everybody,
seasons had like 7, 6 seasons?
no,
But it was like 3 or 4.
I think it was
Hey,
only one. Well,
for shows like
No,
that,
it
they
cannot
should
be so
really,
I
short.
think it's two.
2
for
seasons?
shows like that, they should really do what Joss Whedon did with Buffy. When the show finished on TV, he then went into comics and did another 3 seasons in comics.
Oh, I
That
stand
will be
corrected. It's 3 seasons.
3 seasons. I know it
Yeah,
was not like 1 or 2 for sure, because
yeah,
I
three
had a
seasons.
lot of fun watching it, and it was not that short. So I have that at least enjoyment. Like he had a good starting and developing. He just needed that closure.
Yeah, I
At
needed
least.
the closure. And I gotta point
Story
out
closure.
before I move on to something else, because you mentioned the third guy for Battlestar Galactica. There's so many IPs, so many IPs. We have Doctor Who. I mean, it's impossible for me. I mean, we could probably do just one episode mentioning all the IPs, the sci-fi IPs that had fan base.
Yep.
And that's the whole idea. That's what I love about the sci-fi is regardless of what IP you're in, if it's sci-fi, let's share it. There has
You
been
know
so
what-
many. Go ahead.
You know what we should do? We should rewrite "We Didn't Start the Fire," but make it all sci-fi IPs.
Ray, start the
That would be
fire.
awesome. That would be awesome. You imagine Star Trek, Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica.
I actually listened to
exactly.
the rap song from Star Wars. Oh my god, it was hilarious, man! The part 1 and the part 2 Star Wars rap battle. You gotta watch it, man.
And have
who
you
do have
seen
to thank for that?
have you seen two cellos do their what's it called? The overture from episode 1, where they played cellos. I have to find it. It was a big thing about 6 or 8
You're
years
gonna have
ago.
to send it to me, man. I now want to watch
Yeah,
it.
it was
Parodies is
really
my
good.
thing.
Oh wow! So, if you want to interact, I mean, we have great conversation. Now I got Geo involved, so he's almost as active as I am on the hashtag. Let's just get that conversation going. We're loving it so far, and he's going to point out a couple of people when we get to our shout out section. So the engagement is getting strong, and I love all the recommendations and things that I have even seen or know about, and that's a great thing. That is a fantastic thing. So
So
not
watch out,
only
listeners. I'm watching you.
so we have the interaction, and we also have a voicemail that we are going to play, and we're going to talk about. So if you like to give us a voicemail instead of interacting, because we get to play that in the show, you get to hear on our episodes, you can just call our hotline is 1-305-563-6334 and leave us a voicemail, and you could be heard on our next episode. So let me go ahead and play this voicemail, and let's talk about it. This is a really good voicemail from Mr. D. Thank you so much.
Hey, Sipowitz.
Why, hello, everyone. Hope everyone's having a beautiful, blessed, wonderful day. I wanted to know if you guys had seen the new Wakanda Forever movie. I wanted to know what you guys thought of it. I thought it was very good. I will not produce any spoilers, but I had a lot of question marks. And when it comes to sci-fi, switching to that, what would you consider to be sci-fi? Would you consider Marvel to be a part of the sci-fi universe, DC Comics, or is sci-fi just have kind of certain zones and certain tiers? So this is A. Sipowitz from Twitter. Hope everybody's having a good day. And hope that you guys can answer my question. All right. Peace out.
So I would like to start by saying we haven't seen Wakanda Forever yet. We
So
are
it won't be
familiar.
forever until we watch it.
I am familiar with the Black Panther. So I can probably speak based on that.
So you
On that
know him?
movie alone.
You know him? You know him?
I don't know. I thought you did.
No, I mean you said that you're familiar with him, so
Yeah, I'm
you know him.
familiar with him. So it is my thought that this one is definitely sci-fi. It's with the technology they found and how they convert that to be useful by that country, as well as the technology they have, computer advances, everything in there. So that's definitely a sci-fi property. What do you guys think about all the stuff in that movie?
Well, Wakanda is presented, at least in the other Marvel movies, because I haven't seen the newest one, as a technological society with quite advanced technologies in various fields, which immediately put it into the sci-fi genre. But overall, Marvel movies, like Ant-Man, all the Iron Man movies, and all the movies that Iron Man is in, that's all highly technological. Basically, if the movie has something in it that's technological that we don't actually have in real life, then it's sci-fi. That's how I look at it. I mean, movies like it's one we did recently as a request, Reign of Fire. There wasn't much science in there that isn't present day or past days current technology. So I didn't really feel like it was particularly sci-fi, and I think I mentioned it at the time. It felt more like dystopian future or apocalyptic future, which doesn't
like
feel
zombie being
very
sci-fi.
sci-fi to me. But I mean, a lot of people have a much wider view of science fiction in that, you know, it covers anything that's futuristic.
Yeah,
So,
including me. I think
yeah.
all dystopians is sci-fi. But then that's just me.
Well, being a scientist, I need to see a bit of science in this somewhere.
He's gonna always slap that in your face, man.
But
I know, and that's good. And that's good.
You should
But I
put
mean,
your white biologist thingy.
my coat on. Yeah, I've got it's hanging on the back of the door over there. But
excuse
I mean,
me.
even things like Spider-Man, you know, with the
It's sci-fi.
with this develop the serum, you know, that's science that we don't have. So, you know, it's sci-fi. So there you go, easy tick.
So since we're talking about that, so nice segue, because we have two more questions that we gotta discuss based on that voicemail. Do you what is and let me start with Gio first. What is sci-fi to you? Because basically you're the new one here. Me and Ray have been following sci-fi for such a long time. Gio is basically the new guy right here. So I'd like to hear his unbiased opinion first before we go into our very biased opinion.
Who's that guy? Who's that guy? It's Gio. New guy.
So what is sci-fi to you?
To me, honestly, sci-fi is anything that, as far-fetched as you're gonna think about it, if they come up with some kind of explanation that would incline to science, even if it's just fantasy, but it has some kind of root into it, it's sci-fi. And I mean, big example, just what Ray mentioned, like Spider-Man, like being bitten and having his DNA modified. And don't go further. Inside of Spider-Man, for example, reptile doctor, he was actually studying lizards because of their like their ability to regrow whole limbs and stuff like that, which is interesting. We actually are looking into that frontier. And studying these specimens for that. So it is quite sci-fi. It's just not science fact yet, but it doesn't mean that we might not get to make it real, and it doesn't mean that it's fantasy. Like talking about Lord of the Rings, which I adore, but like having magic powers in your mana and stuff like that. That's more unexplained, more fantastic in the area of fantasy, you know, than actually bringing something that will give you some kind of explanation to its source. So, I mean, I might be answering just the two questions at once, but all of the properties that AC Powitz asks us for, like DC, Marvel, and so they are all to me considered sci-fi. Absolutely, no doubts.
I feel I have to insert the Arthur C. Clarke quote in here.
All right.
Any technology sufficiently advanced is indistinguishable from magic.
Yes.
And you know that's the, you know, if the technology is advanced enough and you can't work out how it works, then it just looks like magic to you. Doesn't matter when or where you're from.
You know, now that you mention it, I think I never brought it up to like any episode, but I always had it on my mind. There is an engineering science that actually works a lot around science fiction, which is industrial engineering. Because what their main job is, they tell you, I need a machine that does this and that. It is up to the industrial engineer to determine what they're gonna use to make the machine make the basically work and do the functions that are needed from the customer. The customer has no idea whatsoever how the machine is gonna be composed to get that task done.
Black box.
So exactly. So like they basically come with creative ideas with existing technology and readapt it to new uses, or even make it evolve on the path, and which is something that I was going to study when I was going to go to university the first time, because I find it quite interesting. It's just a limitless universe there. When you're an industrial engineer, you're gonna get customers that are gonna come with things that might other things is ridiculous, but they always find somebody that actually make it real, make it work, make it happen.
So all the customers come to you with science fiction, and it's your job to make it science fact.
With me, most of the time ends up in fantasies. Ooh, don't get bad
So,
ideas.
so Ray, what was that your definition for science fiction? And what do you think about the Marvel DC universe?
Well, I kind of already gave my
Okay.
upshot of that one.
Okay. So to me, and I think I've said this in many episodes before, and I never get shy of or get tired of saying. Let me start by saying, to me, I agree with both of you. It's, DC uh, and Marvel are sci-fi to me.
Even X-Men's, right?
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Look at that jet, man. That thing's total
Yeah,
sci-fi.
that is awesome. Love that. And sci-fi to me, it's kind of like I do have to think sci-fi. Sci-fi to me is a little bit like what Gio was talking about. This is how we have issues, we have challenges that we are talking about, that we are thinking about. This could be physical challenges, any kind of challenge, and then we have the sci-fi writers thinking about those challenges and creating a story based on research, because I like to think that most of this basically do research to make it sound believable and create an IP or create a story around it where that is either resolved or it shows you how bad it could get. So I always say, because of that, sci-fi is actually a thought experiment that we as humans learn from. And there has been so many cases. I'm not going to go into details, but one example is our the movie Gattaca. Go back to listen to that episode in season 1. But there's so many cases what we actually learn in a way that we either move away from some sort of issue that is caused by that, quote unquote technology, or we have a solution to an issue get resolved, and that becomes science and ends up resolving a challenge. Another example that is very common, because I just want to make this short, is the Star Trek communicator becoming a flip phone. So to me, science fiction is a thought experiment that benefits humanity.
Can I add a little bit to that before we move on?
Oh yes.
Okay, so here's your word for the day: verisimilitude. Have you guys heard of that one before?
Which one?
Verisimilitude.
No.
Okay, so verisimilitude is a theoretical concept that determines the level of truth in an assertion or hypothesis.
Yes, right? I actually heard about it on Spanish. So you just make connect to that.
It's one of those words that does not come up very often, but it's a pretty funky word. And basically,
Sunday word, we call it a Sunday word.
I'm bringing verisimilitude up is because it's very important when you're writing a story. When you write something that's completely fantastical, like Star Wars, everybody's like, okay, this is way out there. It's got nothing to do with our current reality where we are. It's a complete science fantasy, right? But hard science fiction, and this is a particular branch of science fiction which it relates to near future or technologies that you can see happening, like we're working our way towards it now. And a lot of ideas that come out of science fiction, people would love to have them, be able to go out and buy them from Dyson or whoever does the new funky technology that you've got to have. But we haven't got there yet because there's intermediate steps that haven't been reached. I mean,
Dyson?
the big problem with it.
Dyson? Not everybody Tesla is Alita's father.
Not Dyson Edo. No, I'm talking about the company that makes the vacuums and the fanless, the bladeless fans and all.
Whoa, that's why I call him Dr. Hoover.
Like yeah,
Dr. Hoover.
Yeah, I know. Vacuum cleaner.
But basically, what I'm trying to say, Captain Chaos, is that there's steps that haven't been reached yet that we've got to overcome before we can create that technology that's been imagined in science fiction. Like electric cars were very difficult to create for a long time because battery technology hadn't caught up. And if it wasn't for good old Twitter owner, Mr. Now his name won't come to me.
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk, thank you. If it
No,
wasn't for
the
Elon
guy that
Musk's
they were
work
making
in,
fun. He has a lot of Twitter handles now.
yeah, many, and you pay $8 for each one of them.
Mr. Party. Mr. Party.
Yeah, that's right. So, if it wasn't for his work in heavy-duty battery technology, we still wouldn't have electric cars. There's these technologies that are required before you get to the sci-fi ideal that you want, right? And that can take decades. You've got to work your way through the steps to get to that result that you've seen in science fiction. So that's why it can take decades to get to these things. Like we still don't have our flying cars because the technologies, the intermediate technologies haven't come about yet.
I think that a flying car is a terrible idea.
But when you're writing a sci-fi story, the verisimilitude is very important. You want to draw things in that people are seeing now, so it feels more real. It's not science fantasy; it's science fiction, and near future fiction. You know that it's all about making it feel real by bringing what we know now into the story. I'll give you a perfect example. When they did the city in iRobot, they specifically made only some of the buildings futuristic. Now, a lot of sci-fi futuristic cities are all gleaming towers and funky architecture, right?
They are
what
just
they did in
iRobot.
Yeah, exactly. But what they did in iRobot was they left some of the buildings like present day or even like past times buildings and only had some of them futuristic. And that's more natural because cities don't just spring up fully formed in a particular technological style. They grow and a new building will be put up here, but there'll be older buildings around it, and it's more natural. And that's the verisimilitude of the story felt more real because it wasn't just a fully formed futuristic city. It was a city that was growing into the future. So
it showed the progression that is behind the story too.
Exactly. So when a writer is coming up with a sci-fi property, you want to build in current stuff and show things advancing slowly in parts, not just immediately springing fully formed into a sci-fi future. And then it feels more real.
Yeah, and just to like second to that, it's like how tangible that fantasy or sci-fi becomes. The more tangible that we see it is, the more science it becomes.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay, so I hope that we have answered all your questions. Mr. D, thank you so much for calling the hotline. And keep it coming. Keep it coming. So, Gio, we're going to our next segment.
Shout out.
Well, and for this segment, first off, I want to let everybody know that we are members of the Blind Knowledge Network. Go ahead and check their content. They have fantastic array of variety over there, and we're glad to be part of them. They're a great community. Also, I want to give a special thank you to Mary. Her handle is M_Ward3 for Twitter. Thank you for the retweets and the support and spreading the content to all the future listeners. We appreciate it very much. Also,
There's
I wanted to
about Mary.
That's a good movie. We should do it. Also, the cult of Erin. I don't know if you have a cult, but hey, make me part of it. I want to see what's about. Your handle is Queen Erin. Thank you again for your support. We have great time every time that we did a collab, and we would love to have you and the crew back again.
She is awesome.
Yes.
The podcast that wouldn't die. Yeah. So if you guys should listen. If you haven't listened to it already, we have an episode that we recorded with them. But yep, she's a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah,
so
guys, listen to me. If you guys haven't died yet, come back. No funny.
The podcast that wouldn't die.
And also, I wanted to give a special thank you and appreciation to our listener. Um, I'm gonna put it like this because he has like little emojis. So I put pirate face, Vader pirate face, but it's just Vader with two like little skulls emojis. And his handle is at Vader Rapina with double P. Thank you for the retweets, engage on the conversations, and keep the log going. Also, and last but not least, Bridget. Her handle is at WH3ELIES _mom. Love chatting with you. We always you always bring interesting topics and view. I always do too. Looking forward for more. And this is not much of a shadow, more like a summoning. But I'm gonna summon a dear
Summoning.
Nikky. Dear Nikky, Nikky, where are you? I miss you. Come back again. And I mean, all our listeners, go and check her out. She has fantastic content. I always love listening to her. Uh, and her handle is at the Nikky with double KY 162. Go check her out. You can find from there all the medias that she's in. And I'm gonna actually make myself the homework. I wanna message you today. See, where are you?
Well, here's the thing. Number one, I want to say, listen to her if you're over 18. Um, the podcast is great. It's fantastic, but it's not safe for work.
Unless you have
Believe me.
headphones.
Believe me. It's great, but if you're 18, don't bother. Just you have to be over 18 for that. And yeah, we might have something coming up with Nikki. I don't know if I told you, Gio, but she did respond to us. Yeah, no, of course she's really busy, so we'll make something.
Yeah, no, she's a rock star now. She has her own radio show and shit. So she's like, "Yo, you little people, where are you? How are you?"
Yeah,
Just kidding.
and if you hear our segment, this is sci-fi. The voice that you hear, this robotic voice that says, "This
This
is
is
sci-fi."
Nikki. I
This
love
is
her.
Nikki. Yeah. So just you could actually go back and listen. One of our favorite episodes. We have two episodes we recorded in season one. One was for Stargate, and the other one was for Barbarella. Go back and download those and see how much fun we had. So yeah, Nikki, we're waiting for you.
I've listened to both of those and I can highly recommend them.
Nice.
And
And
I'm not sure if you have any more. I have a couple of mentions.
oh, go ahead, man. I didn't want to fill up the whole show whole segment. I wanted to put more people, really. But I
That's
mean, next
okay.
episode is just as good as a. I mean, I'm not mentioning A Sipowicz again. We mentioned him with his um, message too, and we appreciate. I mean, it's not enough times that we can say thank you for also being part of our community and for being a listener and for spreading the love, man. Really appreciate it. Oh, keep it going.
Yeah, yeah. I want to call out Cinema Recall. Great, great podcast. If you like cinema in general and you're not listening to that podcast, you should. The Burn is great. We had him on season one. Hopefully, we can have him soon. We are working on something that we might be on their show. So stay tuned for that. And we're definitely working to bring him back for season two. It was a lot of fun. I love their podcast. And they're always, they're always sharing the love of our show. So we really, really appreciate that. I want to point out also, there's a new interaction this week. I'm probably gonna kill the name is Gorillie. The handle is Silver Swan Games on Twitter. Want to thank you so much for also helping us share the love. It's got helping everybody follow each other that is a sci-fi lover, and that is our whole goal is we follow each other so we can all share our love for sci-fi. And I would have to mention a podcast that I also listen to is called Skiffy and Fanty. Great podcast. It's all about sci-fi. If you have not listened to that, um, go ahead and give him a listen, and then let me know what you think. I listen to their show regularly. It's a very great sci-fi podcast. They actually do reviews of all kinds of sci-fi content via, could be a book or actually a movie or a TV show. Do go ahead and do listen to them. I'm pointing it out because they're actually trying to help us also share the sci-fi love, where we can actually get together and join up as a sci-fi community, regardless of what IP you come from. So again, thank you so much, and hopefully we can get more people to join up on that sci-fi community, so we can all benefit from everybody's favorite IP. And that would be it. So, do we have an adult Redmond?
I have an outer remnant. I have a really good outer remnant.
There we go. So here we go.
Whoa!
Outer remnant.
After 2 weeks of being out of the loop, I'm back in the loop again. Yay!
Woohoo!
So
That sounds sad, man. Being back in the loop. Stuck again.
Oh man.
But you have to watch this video to know what I just did, but it's pretty obvious. Anyway, so I, as one of the hosts of the Elite Army's Radio Chaos, I have been unavailable the last couple of weeks for family reasons, but I'm back on board now. We had planned to cover the next chapter of the manga. We're in the Motorball arc at the moment, but then FKN, he's one of the keen beans in the Elite Army. He loves to go out and engage with people who are involved with the movie and get them into to be interviewed by us. And he got and my brain's gone blank. Why do I hate it when that happens?
It happens to me too all the time.
Sleep. What is that stuff? I should get some more of that.
Sleep is over.
Let me know what you find out.
Come on, Captain Google, help me out here.
Captain Google? That's my right hand.
No, Dr.
No,
Google.
Wikipedia is my right hand.
Didn't Google went to the university and got a doctorate degree?
I'm really sorry that I forgot her name.
He has no, but right here is Wikipedia.
Jessie Fisher. She's a stunt woman who was involved in the movie Alita Battle Angel, and we had her on and interviewed her, and she was lovely. Awesome. It just seems like pretty much everybody who we've interviewed was involved in the movie, from Leda Calligridis, who was the co-writer with James Cameron of the screenplay, all the way down to like people who were involved in the mob scenes, who just like were pulled in for a night's filming to be in the crowd and that sort of thing. They're all so friendly and helpful and willing to sit in and just have fun discussing the movie with us. And Jessie was no different. She has a history with Cirque du Soleil, and she's just an amazing stunt woman. And she was in other movies, like the most recent Terminator movie. She was the stunt double for my brain is really not working for me today. Sarah Connor. She was a stunt double for Sarah Connor. Nice. In that movie. So she's done some fantastic work, and hoping to see her in the sequel of Alita Battle Angel when they get around to doing it. Come on, let's get a sequel going. But anyway, yeah, so we had a lot of fun talking to her, and then we were talking some manga after that. So that was great fun. You can check that out on the Elite Army YouTube channel. Just search the space hashtag Elite Army, one word, the second one. And do sign up to that one if you like the movie, and check out the live streams. They're all recorded there, so you can check out all the topics there. And also, if you haven't already, do head over and sign the petition. It's got 186,000 and change signatories at the moment, and we're hoping to push it up to 200,000 sometime soon.
We all did, so you should too.
Excellent.
Awesome. So, are we ready?
Can you be
I'm
ready
always
for
ready.
Because this show, it's we have the X-File guys moved on to the Warehouse 13, but the middleman got in the way, so they all went to the library and met the librarian.
Pretty much.
So Gio, you have our plot for today.
Gio's blood, of course, man.
We should make this a segment. Gio's plot.
I think it's segment already.
Wouldn't it be more accurate to say Gio's lost the plot?
Could be.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if you guys noticed, but Scarlett Johansson doesn't smile pretty much, and it's because how much she was mistreated as a child. We can see that here at the beginning of the episode, and basically it's a story about a little girl that found her mother's drug and used them too much and got screwed up, and she started hallucinating about seeing concrete men, and basically telling about a lot of kidnappings that were not really happening. So then she starts seeing imaginary friends, and when they kick her out of the police force, she thinks that she's part of a special force, and she's running around the street saying that she's saving the world, attacking posts and shit like that.
Wait, did we watch the same thing?
Yeah.
I thought it was a documentary about how to deal with PTSD of concrete.
No, I mean, she thought like she was Quasimodo and running like a gorilla and stuff too. She thought she was in Notre Dame with the gargoyles and stuff like that. But she got it all wrong because the gargoyles are supposed to be your friends, not your enemies.
Oh, wow. Oh, nice.
And that's just
nice.
Well, surely somebody here can do a much sexier version of a plot summary for this one.
Oh, don't get me wrong. She was sexy, but it made it scary because she was crazy, bad shit.
I am going to attempt to do the sexy plot. I also want to apologize in advance. This is solely made out of, comedic effect.
And that's how new fan club of Rubber is going to be born.
Yay! Everybody sign up for Robert's OnlyFans.
Hey, I'm signing in.
Oh,
I'll pay to watch that.
Okay, hey, I'm a gold member, man.
He's like the little sexy man's underwears, but with a galaxy on it. And a star cluster in the front instead of a tiger.
As long as he doesn't wear the boomerang pants, we're all good.
Okay, so here we go. I'm going to attempt it, so please be gentle.
In this, the premiere episode, we are introduced to a young girl, Kate Alice Benson, who believes in creatures that go bump in the night.
Boom chicka wow wow.
We gotta do this more often. This is gonna be the sexy segment.
But we only get one sentence.
I'm gonna get to like build the voice for like the introduction or something, like tell me your deepest fantasy sci-fi desires.
Oh God. So I don't know, someone might want to read this in a more serious tone. I gave you one sentence, but I'll put it up to the listeners. If you want to hear more, we can make this a thing. I just gave you a line as a taste to see if I should open up the,
Yeah, if you want the whole thing, you got to go to his OnlyFans.
Yeah, we have now sexy Vader, Robert.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Okay. You want me to read it?
Well,
or you want to go ahead and give it a try?
You can use your reader voice now.
Either or. Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
In this, the premiere episode, we're introduced to a young girl, Kate Alice Benson, who believes in creatures that go bump in the night. We then flash forward to the present day, where now Officer Kate Benson of the Chicago Police Department is ridiculed for her insistence at reporting strange and mysterious creatures and incidents to her superiors. When Officer Benson tries to rescue a girl from a gruesome perp who shrugs off bullet hits, she meets a mysterious detective, Nicholas O'Malley, who really enjoys killing and blowing up creatures with his really big gun. Is this the porn version?
What? He's what? He's BFG?
Man, I have to join this.
You say BFG?
Anyway.
No, so you're trying to say I should have done the entire thing with my sexy voice?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I needed to hear that with that music and that thing like really big gun.
Benson is
Really big
introduced
gun.
to and recruited to join Special Unit 2, a top secret section of the Chicago Police Department, whose task is to control, detain, and exterminate mythological creatures known as links, as in the missing link. On Benson's probationary assignment with her new partner O'Malley, she must track down 12 missing persons who have been kidnapped by gargoyles and must find a nest and stop the impending gargoyle apocalypse, or the Gargpocalypse, as I consider.
They're just concrete elfmans.
Yeah. Concrete disaster. An event that happens every 600 years where a pair of gargoyles oversee a mass hatching of baby gargoyles, offspring that hungers for human flesh. And the estimated time of hatching is 24 hours after Benson's first day with Special Unit 2. Cue time pressure.
Okay, wait. I have a question. See, they eat human flesh, but do they shake bricks?
I don't know. Maybe I'm a gargoyle then, because I had a job interview the other day and I was certainly doing that.
Oh, wow. So before we go start talking about this, I have to give you a little bit of my context on this.
On shitting bricks?
I like to think that you guys are new into this. You had never seen this before, this opportunity. So
I
you're
resemble
welcome.
that comment.
You're welcome.
You can tap yourself a little bit more on the shoulder, Robert.
Yeah, there you go. So I have been a long fan of the Sci-Fi Channel. I believe the Sci-Fi Channel came into place in 1992. And they had, that typical sci-fi logo that I love so much, which is just sci-fi letters inside this Saturn ring, which was really, I found that to be really, really cool. So this channel had original content that they create regularly, and I'm a sci-fi lover. They have original content. 1992 they started. I was in, take my money. So the show called Special Unit 2, it was aired in 2001 for the first time. So it's they already had, I like to say, experience created original content. So this is one of the many that they have created. Now, you're probably wondering, because when you look at this, and the only source that I could find so far, and if you do find other sources, please reach out, because I love this episode. I mean, I love this show as a whole. And let me know where. But so far, the only place that you would find it is in YouTube. And you would find it interesting because if you look at the logo in the lower third, you'll see the new SYFY logo, which is the SYFY. And I believe they actually changed to the new logo in 2009, if I'm not mistaken. So that gives you a little sense of how long this TV show has been airing in that channel since it was created in 2001.
So what's the syndication?
Exactly. So if you get to catch it, although originally when I saw it for the first time, it was with the original SYFY logo, you can't find that version anywhere. I only see it with a new SYFY logo, which is after. This over here, I have very good nostalgia for this show. And I was very, very sad when the show stopped, because I really, really enjoy. Um, they only have 2 seasons, so it's and I
19 episodes total.
19 episodes total. Yeah, so it's you could find those on YouTube right now, and I'm kind of curious. You're gonna hear us pretty soon start talking about this, um, but I'm kind of curious to see if you guys go watch it and then come back and let us know what you guys think. I get it. I have very fond memories, mainly um, because the show is so incredibly funny to me. So you guys seen it? I want to say recently. You didn't watch it back in 2001 with
I
me.
was today years old when I first saw this show.
So I don't know who wants to go first. First reaction of watching this show.
The baby goes first.
Okay, the baby goes first. The baby sci-fi. Captain Chaos.
I go good. No, I'm not the baby. Raise the baby. I watched it a couple days before, so I'm like,
Oh, right.
I'm not a toddler
The
yet,
newbie.
but I'm a few days older.
It's
It counts, man.
it's been a
Whatever,
damn
whatever
long
I can to be ahead of you in life, I will, because that's not much.
it's been a damn long time since I've been referred to as baby. Well, my first takes from this was that they went with the late 90s, early 2000s snark that was made popular by shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. I don't know that they quite had the Whedon-esque propensity for it that in this first episode. Interesting aside, this episode that we're reviewing here was not originally shown. It was an unaired pilot. I was reading in Wikipedia. Thank you, Wikipedia, for all your useful information. But of course, it's sitting there on
The most trustable source.
YouTube, so you can go and watch it there. But I think that leaving this one out story-wise was a mistake because it basically explained how the new character to or the new person coming into Special Unit 2 got in there in the first place and why. So yeah, I think they didn't do themselves a favor leaving this one out in the original airing. It would have confused a few people not getting the information from this episode as far as the differences between the two Special Unit 2 officers and how they related to each other going forward. One was very new and the other one was a cynical old hand kind of deal. So yeah, I thought that was useful in the setup for this. And my second take from this was, oh my God, the wooden acting. You get this a lot with pilots, that the actors haven't got into their roles quite yet. The writers obviously had a strong idea about how they wanted the characters to interact, but the actors were somewhat wooden in their delivery. I've seen Ents with less wooden acting than these two in some scenes. But having said that, the writing was very good. I found that the way they'd written the interaction was quite entertaining. There was a couple of funny quotes that we were debating we could have used at the start of the show, which were quite amusing, but in the end we just went with something simple and ran that way. But it's worth watching for the snarky interaction between these two, which I expect would have got even more interesting as time wore on. Is that correct, Robert?
Yes. Oh, yes. And yeah, I was one of those. And let me know if you guys are in the same boat as I am when you watch this show and you want it more. But I was really sad when.
I'm no sailor and I'm not in a boat.
So, yes. I really enjoy the music on this, and I don't
Oh
know.
yeah.
This might be a product of its time, but they had really great music that takes me back to the era.
Yeah.
And even when it's not music, I mean, let me correct that. They have songs that are popular at the time that are playing throughout this episode. And whenever they're not songs and when they're just background music, even that is great because it kind of gets you into the scene in a way that I haven't seen many other properties do. Prior to this. Um, do you guys agree with that? I mean, what is your thought on that?
I mean, I love how they use like the rock music that was booming back at those days. It took me back right away. And I mean, it has a perfect combination of those High School Musical pop music songs too that were also very famous in that day, like pre Hannah Montana times.
Yeah, well,
But I mean,
with
it's good comedy and everything. I love it. It's well done.
with a lot of science fiction, you get iconic music that is pinned to the IP, not to the time that it was produced, and it's quite timeless, like Star Wars music or Star Trek music. All of that stuff you can listen to anytime, and it doesn't pin it to a particular period of our timeline. It's
Hmm.
completely its own thing, and that has a charm, but
He does. He
when
does.
you've got something like this where it has music from the time, it pins it down to a time and then it links everything else, and it kind of feels like it pulls it all together. I think a lot of these showrunners, when they're deciding what sort of music to use, they either go one way or the other, trying to think in the positive column and avoid the negatives. But I do think that the timing of the music, it does work for this show. It pulls it in and goes, okay, this is early noughties. You can feel the early noughties. You can see the
Naughties or
cars.
nineties?
Nice.
Nah, you so
But
naughty.
you can feel that this is the vibe they're going for, and they do want to be pinned down to that time, and that's why they're using the music. And like there's a particular song right near the end of the episode. It's Magic Carpet Ride, but it's a remix. And it's actually one that I used to use quite regularly when I was internet DJing in the early noughties. And that was a lot of fun too to reminisce about that. So it does pull you back to the time when the show came out, especially if you recognize some of the tracks and had anything to do
Yep.
with them. And I think that's quite enjoyable as well, in that it really pegs itself as something to reminisce about.
I'll tell you something, just on a segue to what Ray says. Like that effect that the '80s movies had, they achieved that on their time frame too. They
Yeah,
did it.
Yeah.
It takes
exactly.
you back to the time and give you that longy. Like they were good times. I'm glad I was part of those times. Not like '80s. You always rub it in my face, guys.
Yeah. I wonder how much they took from the X Files for the show. The X Files, I think it was aired '93. But I don't know if you guys feel the same way. But I feel the vibe. It's kind of like that the X File, you know, uh, the two that worked through the cases. This is kind of like it feels like the same, but not.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
difference between DC and Marvel.
yeah, there's a special kind of chemistry between Nick and Kate that it makes this show it's absolutely great. And just to give you a kind of like an overview of what the entire show is about. Uh, it- the show mentions or illustrates the top secret
Hmm.
Chicago police division known as Special Unit 2. It's a secret organization reminiscent of what would be the FBI and the X Files. And they're
These are like the people on the SWAT call when they don't know what to do.
so, but it's like if you
Who are
watch
you
more
going to
of this,
call?
yeah, I don't know how many episodes you've seen, but you get the chance that this is like they are the ones that show up unannounced whenever something it's mythological
Unannounced and unseen.
Yeah, because those are the like from this episode, we can tell pretty much how they work. They were talking about how Kate was actually an outcast. Even since she was a little girl, she's able to see what they call in this IP, they call them links. And these are the supernatural which is kind of funny. They even talk about, everything is real but vampires. That's just pure fiction. So she's able to see
Vampires
all
are
this.
real and more
Yeah,
believable than concrete
not
figures moving
vampires are
around.
not real. Everything else is, but the vampires.
Funny thing is that the second episode, which is the first one that actually aired, was about lycanthropy. So vampires are bullshit. Oh yeah, but werewolves are real. It's like,
So you know which side they are in when they're watching Underworld.
oh yeah.
Yeah. So they deal with this special unit. What I was talking about is Kate has been an outcast even from school. People would make fun of her because she would see this links that typically people can't normally see. She's very observant.
Or people are trained not to see. It's
Exactly.
actually mentioned.
So
They just haven't done psychedelics, so they can.
so she has gone through certain incidents through her police career that has emphasized of this, making her even more of an outcast within the organization, where everybody thinks she's just nuts or crazy. And we learned that the reason why it mainly in her career is because Special Unit 2, every time she has these encounters, they go in there and remove all proof. So all there is left is their eyewitness account of Kate. And what happens when you only have eyewitness account? You're labeled as crazy.
I believe the technical term is knucking futs.
Makes sense. I'm crazy.
So, she does have some sort of hate towards the beginning because she was made to look stupid. At least uh, she got closure, and knowing that, I don't think she in any. And go ahead and tell me, guys, what you think. But I don't think at any rate she considered herself that what she experienced was not true or maybe a fiction or imagination. I think that what pissed her off the most, and we can see this even when she was a child, where her mom was telling her you've not seen anything, is the fact that she knows what she's seen. She's very aware that it's not an imagination, and she's pissed because people are not believing her. Is that what you gather from her experience so far? And I know you only seen one episode.
Well, a lot of times kids are ignored because they're kids, right? So and kids have wild imaginations. I used to think that there were monsters in my wardrobe. I had this little white wardrobe and the door wouldn't latch properly, so it would just like pop open randomly.
Now you know that the monsters are outside the front door.
It scared the shit out of me. It really did. When I was a kid, it scared the shit out of me. And kids are ignored. It's like, oh, there's a monster under my bed. It's just your imagination. Go back to sleep.
And you go and actually find an energy drink under the bed. It was an actual monster.
When I was a kid, man, they didn't have that shit. It was like it was the cordial with lots of sugar in it. That was about as much as you get as far as an energy drink was concerned.
That would have killed my parents.
What was that stuff called? It was this orange stuff that you made up as a drink from crystals. I'm trying to think what it was called.
Like a vitamin C booster.
Yeah, it was a drink.
Or like the Flintstones gummies. The Flintstones gummies, like for vitamins.
No, it was chocolate milk.
But hey,
he's got that voice filter going.
Yoo-hoo is not chocolate milk. That's water chocolate milk.
Come on, Professor Google, help me out here.
My mommy told me not to talk to strangers.
Well, your mummy was very sensible.
But did she tell you not to chase a guy in a white van? We ice cream.
Tang. Thank you, Professor Google. Tang. You guys had Tang?
Oh, I drank Tang. A lot of them.
Oh yeah, I still remember the monkey commercials.
That was the energy drink of the 80s. Tang.
That was the Kool-Aid of the 80s.
Just sugar high.
Oh yes.
Bouncing through the wall. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
Well, to me, I don't feel that character was a hateful one though.
No.
Like I didn't fear that emotion on her. It was more like let down by everybody than anything
Mhm.
else. Yes, she was always adamant about her beliefs and what she thought. That was never shook out of her.
But you see that inner child that most people try and ignore. She didn't ignore it.
Yeah.
She was like, I saw the thing and I have no reason not to believe that it exists. So I believe that it exists and I'm going to tell people. Whereas
Mhm.
anybody else would be like, no, that didn't happen. I'm just going to get ridiculed if I say anything about it. So I'm going to put the blinders on and just go over here.
And be normal.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's funny that you mentioned that. I read a long time ago, Pablo Picasso used to say that when we're growing up, we spend like when we're born, we spend the first half of our life trying to be adults, and then when we are in the other half, we're trying to be kids again.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
then you get people like me who never gave up being a kid.
Hey, you got the secret of life, man. And number 3 too. That's the answer to life.
I have to ask.
Don't be shy.
I have to ask. I really, really have to ask. What you guys think about Carl?
I love the way he was introduced. Hey, Carl, come in here for a minute. Boom, 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 boom. Why the hell did you just shoot the dwarf? It's like, he's not a dwarf, he's a gnome. And it's, to speed the things up a bit. Speed up the believability. And she's like, but I'm the girl who gets in trouble for telling everybody how it really is. Why do you need to shoot the gnome to make it? So, what?
Oh.
Anyway, I shot the gnome full of holes, but
Yeah. You see
I had
how
to
they
buy me
treat
a new
me here?
shirt.
I thought
You
it
see
was
what
just
I
a
have to
fat
put up with
hobbit.
this?
You're paying for this shirt, right?
I love his attitude.
It's just how casual he is. Like, this, you see what I have to put up with in here? He's not care that he got shot at. He's like, okay, the shirt is ruined. Now you're gonna have to buy a new one.
No, he's carrying an axe that is bigger than him. That gives us a touch.
What about the tentacle monster in the sewer? We couldn't work out how to kill it, so we just keep it around for garbage disposal.
And for recruits that don't make it.
Yeah,
And Kate is
that
looking
was a
like,
joke.
that was a joke.
Is he like he's like the version of 99 clone?
I don't. I never got to
Well,
see that creature.
he's not as wise as 99. No.
That creature, can you believe I never got to see that creature? All you see is a tentacle. So they always keep that mystery of how that looks like.
Man, that's David Jones when he was a baby.
They keep on throwing stuff at him, like cigarette butts, whatever they don't want, and that thing keeps on coming, just eats everything.
How do they
Doesn't matter what you
call
throw.
it in American culture that the joke about like that kid that you give everything whenever nobody else wants it to eat? Little Johnny?
The garbage disposal kid.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, when I'm next to a trash can, I'm like, okay, I want my people. My kind of people.
One thing that I have to say is how funny it is, the interaction between Special Unit 2 and the Lynx. It's like everybody's aware of them. I almost get the feeling that they are their police force. Like they're being obviously ignored by everybody else. So it's kind of like, how can I explain this? Do you know what I'm talking about? Where I'm going with this? Where
the casual interaction.
Yeah, I mean, even how the gargoyles respond, like, "Oh, this bag and good cup, routine doesn't work for me," and shit like that. Like,
yeah, you guys
like,
are,
is this a gargoyle?
Starkey
Or
and
this is another New Yorker.
Starkey and Hutch was better than you guys. Like I seen better good cop, bad cop routine. It's like, listen, I am really a good cop.
He really is a bad cop.
I just loved it when he pulled up that gun. It's like the gargoyle would not speak. and he just shoot. You expect him. Honestly, the first time that I watched it, I expected that he was going to shoot that rocket thing that
Kill him.
destroys him. And when he shot, I think they did that for comedic effect on the show,
course.
which
Oh, sure.
I applaud that. But it's so funny because when they pan over to the gargoyle and you expect to just see dust everywhere, you see this like, what did you do to me? He's like a smaller version of himself. So I guess it's a reducing gun or something like that.
Yeah,
And
like a pink gun.
I gotta say that this show had very much Men in Black vibes.
Oh
Yeah.
Yes.
And Men in Black was 97, and this is 2001. So Men in Black came first.
That's a good comparison. Yeah, definitely.
And I'll also say that the Professor Google was helping me out, but not quite quickly enough. But X-Files was still showing when this show came out.
Yes.
There is an overlap. So that's interesting as well.
So that's what I said. I mean, because I know this show came after the X-Files aired. But I see so many similarities on a good way to the X-Files, because the X-Files, we all know, that is it has a very serious tone. This one is kind of like grabbing the context or similar context to the X-File and making it hilarious. And I love that. I just love that. I couldn't tell you how many times I would be in front of the TV when it was airing, just laughing my head off, and people were looking at me funny, like, what the heck are you watching?
You say that, but the premise of this show was a lot more solid than X-Files. X-Files was just weird shit happening and them trying to work out what the hell caused it. But there was no overarching reason for it to be there. Whereas this show comes out immediately and goes, links. They're the missing link between what came before and humans, okay? And in this show, the gargoyles are like, you humans, you say you're the peak of evolution, but you came from monkeys and we came from dinosaurs, which ruled the earth for millions and millions of years. So we're better than you are. And it had this basis of a reason for the weird stuff existing that X-Files didn't have. X-Files was just, well, there's weird shit out there and we're trying to prove it exists, and there's another bunch out there trying to hide it. So
it's like all of those alien documentaries that are going to talk about them, and then you end up not knowing anything about them anyways.
Yeah, exactly. Rather than trying to keep it all on the down low and hide everything, they had a premise that they were running with, and I like that it actually had a reason, and they brought it out in the pilot. So it wasn't one of those you got to wait till season 7 to work out what the frig's going on.
Yeah.
They threw it up front. They front loaded it rather than making you wait for God knows how long, or the movie or something, before you found out what was actually happening.
To get canceled.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that helped the show because granted, I still believe that they should have continued it. As a matter of fact, today I wouldn't mind a reboot. I think they can make it funny. But based on what you just said, it makes me think, and I really never thought about it this way, that this is the reason why it felt almost as if the show had closure, even though it didn't, because it gave you everything up front.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to laugh at it, you got to have a reason to laugh at it, and you either go full on mystery like X-Files, or you go, well, weird shit is happening. This is why the weird shit is happening, and we're going to laugh at it. So you've got to have some sort of solid skeleton to latch the humor onto. Otherwise, it's not humorous. It's mysterious. You can't have mysterious humorous. The two things don't work well together. You either go full on mysterious or you go weird shit but humorous. Movies like Evolution. Have you seen that one?
Oh yes, we got to do an episode on that.
Yeah, I think it's in our Trello somewhere, way down the bottom. But Evolution was one of those movies where it was weird shit, and they worked out pretty early on what the weird shit was going on about, and then they could hang the humor on that skeleton. You've got to have a skeleton. You can't be too mysterious or the humor doesn't work. You can't laugh at something unless you understand it, is the point.
Yeah, then you have to explain the joke, and it kind of kills the whole thing.
Exactly. You
No, but
couldn't
you know
laugh at
what?
X-Files because it was too mysterious.
They should have Captain Chaos in there.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Oh
sure.
yeah, that would be perfect. But which character do you think I would have been?
No, just Captain Chaos. Just
But I mean, Men in Black was the same. They explained everything up front. Oh yeah, well, we're a mob that deal with aliens that come to Earth because they're always coming to Earth, and it is always actually happening. And when they get out of control, we go boo and make everybody forget about it, and that's how we get away.
But if not,
It was all explained up front.
If not,
they front loaded the explanation, and then they could laugh. You could laugh
Yep.
at the situations that it caused.
I still
They
need to
did
go
a
to
similar-
the Liberty Statue to check that out, man. That big laser over there. I think that they have it.
I think they did a similar thing in this show, but I think what they did, they obviously did it differently because they are banking on the fact that people will not believe other people when they don't have proof.
Yep.
Yeah.
So in essence, they are discrediting this person. So basically, what really happened is not, it doesn't come to light as something that happened, but something that some crazy person made up.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what's worse.
They play that on many movies too. Like, oh, you want to go and say that you have a person that can throw walls or buildings? Go ahead. I want to laugh with them too, even though they are the super strong person or have superpowers. You know, they always play that card, and it's actually ironically funny that it applies. You know, it's like maybe true, and we just don't know it because we haven't seen it because we're so skeptical.
What do you guys think about the relationship between, and I'm going to say relationship because I can't think of a better word for it, but the relationship between Nick and Carl?
That should tell you everything. I laughed
I would
at
say
it.
it's like what comes after romance. It's like a marriage of bros.
With fist, punches and
Yeah,
fist.
I think
Carl
the
takes
best
it
way
easy
to
on him.
describe it is frenemies.
Frenemies. Yes, that's the perfect word.
It's like, can you tell Carl? Yeah, I forgot what it was. It's like, well, he's right there. Yeah, I'm not. And then Carl said, "Oh, he's not talking to me after what I did to his what is it? That stripper." And he said, "Exotic dancer."
His stripper girlfriend.
These girls put themselves through college for that, right? And you see Kate going like, "Yeah, right."
College, yeah, college. Yeah.
Now, let me ask you, what's your favorite scene with Carl?
Oh my God.
When he's holding up the store and they go and get him.
Yes, that's a good one. I'm working here.
I'm gonna get.
And the most important thing was the slushy.
That was my favorite part.
And supersize the slushy.
That was my favorite part.
And he's like
get
so
the slushy,
nonchalant, so nonchalant, like, you know what? I'm on a gig.
That's actually my favorite part of that movie.
I'm working here. I'm working.
Another good part is when O'Malley is actually aiming it with a gun. He's like, "You're not gonna kill me. You need me." And then they start like ignoring the importance of saving the 12 kidnapped people. And actually, she pulls a gun on him, and he actually goes like, "Oh shit!" Like, she's not kidding. She'll shoot me. She doesn't give a shit.
Oh yeah.
The one thing that really bugged me was when they leaned so heavily into, oh yeah, all that shit that you've been ridiculed about and you've been trying to tell the police force and that was real and they didn't believe you. Yeah, it's all real. And then the guy who said that turned around and wouldn't believe her when she said, look, there's obviously an underground part here that they haven't demolished. Those 3 caps over there, one of them slipped up the other way. That tells me that there's been access there recently. And the guy's like, yeah, we've got to search other places. We don't believe it. It's like, hang on. You're the guy who said to her a couple of scenes ago that it was all real, and now you're not listening to her deductive reasoning. Slap.
Yep. Counterintuitive.
Yeah, I think this, obviously it was told in a poor way, but I think this is the intent of the writers to illustrate why she was needed in a special unit 2, because she is very observant, or more observant than other people. But that's just my thought.
That's your opinion, Robert. You're entitled to it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
appreciate
I'd like to quote the Joker at this point and say, "Where do you get all those interesting toys from?" I want some interesting toys, damn it.
So another thing that I gotta point out, and you know, we're only talking about the first episode, and I can't wait for you guys to watch all the other episodes that we can talk about, because you know, like every pilot, things, you know, get a lot better after the fact, because this episode, as you pointed out, right, this is a new show. They were trying to get into their characters, and the acting wasn't as, you know, it could have been, and it just gets better, especially at the season 2. But what do you guys thought about the arc? And again, we're talking about this. We talked about this before, how they give you everything up front. The arc in the relationship between Kate and Nick got resolved in the first episode.
Yeah, it did. It did. He, and I think he did on a, I would say, well constructed way, because he brought up like why he said at the beginning, I don't think we need her. He was following orders to bring her there. He actually
Yeah.
didn't want her to bring it, which explains too why he didn't let himself to be seen by her until it was no option, because he was gonna get shot.
Yeah. So she didn't want her, period, but she's ordered to teach her the ropes.
Hmm.
And then we end the episode with Kate saving Nick's life. And now he owes her. So now,
Now,
now they're
let,
best buddies.
let me point out, he's a very strong guy, because the gargoyle grabbed that pipe that he was hitting it with, bent it over, and he was just holding it while it would bend. I was like, wow, dude.
And this is the fantasy part of the show.
Yeah.
Good leverage.
Hey, maybe if you got a strong stance, it can happen, man. Some kung fu
Yeah.
stuff there.
Oh wow. So yeah, this is the episode is basically all around gargoyles. Apparently, what was it? Every 17 years they hatch eggs, and they had to go and grab humans to feed the new gargoyles, and then everything goes back to normal. Uh, it is indicated that the Kate uh, was present during the first time that the egg hatched, and for some reason she did not get picked. Is it possible that maybe they didn't? It doesn't make any sense though, because the gargoyle was there. Maybe it was just a timing thing when the mom came in the room and she left.
Yeah.
But it's, I got the feeling that she could have been a victim the first time that it hatched. And then fast forward to this episode, we said, "Oh yeah, 17 years ago, I seen some at my window," and that's when we put a one and one together and figure out that yeah, this is the 17 years after, where now the gargoyles are hatching, or they're trying to hatch their eggs again. What do you guys thought about that storyline, and how it was integrated into like the entire episode?
I think that maybe the 17 years span thing was not such a big factor, because I don't think that every time that they hatch, they die on those 17 years. They just grow more and more and more. So whoever was keeping an eye on her could have been around for decades, if you think about it. So that time span just means they keep on multiplying and multiplying. Doesn't mean that they are getting eliminated at the same rate.
Yeah, I was
Plus,
thinking
you have just Chicago. We don't know on a worldwide view to
exactly. That's
where
what I was
other
going to get
places
to.
that exactly, like there are other places probably in this part of the universe where maybe there are places where they can actually have more leverage to grow, because there's not like Chicago is a big metropolis, so it means that they have a big uh, law enforcement force to fight all kinds of things. But if you go to a more secluded place or a more rural place, it might not be the case. You know?
Yeah, and we know that they're not uh, immune, Special Unit 2, because we learn in this episode that part of the reason why Nick hates gargoyles is because he lost his last partner to one of them.
Mm-hmm.
What was your thought about that, Ray? I'm just kind of curious.
Well, I thought that, well, the word of the week, verisimilitude. I thought that they engineered that quite well, because there hasn't been a kid alive that hasn't looked up at a gargoyle carving on the side of a church or, a Gothic building or whatever, and looked up at these things and gone, what the frig is that thing for? Why is that there? It's a scary bloody thing. Why would someone put that on the side of a building?
Yeah.
And this explains why. They're corpses of gargoyles that have been killed and are just like now attached to the side of the building permanently as a reminder that, yeah, gargoyles are scary as fuck. And
No, man,
we
I
need
saw
to
more
kill
like
them.
trophies, like hunting trophies.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like, it explains why the hell gargoyles are there, and it's like, it's a really cool explanation. I kind of like it. This whole gargoyle life cycle, the 17 years, and the kidnapping people to be food for the babies. It's like, obviously the babies aren't as tough as the adults. Their shells haven't hardened, their surfaces haven't hardened yet, so they're not as survivable as the parents. So the parents, the older gargoyles grab a few soft humans and tie them up so that the babies can munch on them, and then grow up big and strong and become tough and hard like the parents. But yeah, the whole gargoyle outbreaks in the past. This whole storyline I thought was well thought out. In the verisimilitude of the whole, well, this is why there's gargoyles on the side of buildings. And it's like, wow, okay, almost quite believable.
Yeah,
and that's what you want in a good story like this. It's like, what the hell's really going on? Why are those things there? Oh, because they're actually real. Oh crap. Okay.
Yeah, I really, really, really enjoyed the entire IP, and
we know you're
it's
Disney princess crazy about it.
well, yeah.
You can't deny it, man. It's all right. No shame on
I
that.
I think it's just the more that I look inward as to why, the more that I realize that maybe what I like the most about this show is it's a funny sci-fi with with a slash of fantasy on it. And I like, again, I spoke about this in multiple episodes in the past, that I like my sci-fi mixed. I like sci-fi, but I really enjoy when it's mixed. And that is an explanation as to why, if you guys have listened to our Alien episode, Gio was mentioning, what you like Alien. This is horror. It's horror and sci-fi.
Now that's suspense with and maybe horror thing, and a lot of like stomach diarrhea.
That's not humorous.
Mm,
Just want to say that's not in the funny column.
depending. No, yeah, no, aliens is not funny. It's just suspenseful.
Yeah.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello.
Now that was funny.
Now our Chinese translation plot twist of it was perfect. That was
Yeah, it was
comedy
perfect.
at its
It was
finest.
So yeah,
So Robert, you quite enjoy things like Evolution and
oh yes,
and Men in Black and all those sorts of shows.
oh yes. Anytime you mix, and the more genres you mix together with sci-fi, the more I enjoy it. So and again, let me be clear. I love sci-fi, just pure sci-fi. But when you mix all their genres in it, I enjoy it even more.
Well, sci-fi comedy done right can be really quite enjoyable. And,
Oh, yeah.
and the more you try and harangue it into history and things like, this is why there's gargoyles on the side of buildings. it can be that sort of oh, there was something behind that kind of moment.
Awesome.
Which is fun.
So I would have to ask, because you guys learn of this. I don't know, Gio, you've seen this recently, right? Or you've seen this a long time ago?
No, recently too.
Recently. So basically,
Actually,
I'm the one.
no. We watched it. We watched a few years back. That's
few
true. When you replay it for me, I was like, yeah, we watched this.
Oh, okay. So you guys let me know.
So I'm not such a baby. I'm more than a toddler. Harry.
Yeah.
Now you baby.
Should I be? Am I right in saying you're welcome?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
I asked that question
I'm not gonna
because I
thank
don't
you.
know.
I'm not gonna thank
I
you,
don't
but
know.
yeah, absolutely.
I don't know.
I kind of have to push past the wooden acting, but it's got a lot of things that I quite like because just like you, I'm a big fan of like Men in Black and Evolution and all those sorts of comedy sci-fi IPs. So I'm interested to watch a bit more of this and see where it goes.
Awesome. I guess I'll start, and you guys can follow after on the my final thoughts on this show.
Sorry, I just read the plot for episode 5, The Waste. It's basically a fatberg monster. I have to watch this now.
Oh my god! I just want to see if you guys, because here's the thing, and this is how I got happy about this. Every time I mention this show to anyone, the answer is always, so far, what? I never heard of that before. I never heard of that show before. It's like, where was it? Was it air? And then I guess back then, I'm lucky now that you guys were able to find it on YouTube. But back then, I was very frustrated because I am the type of person that if I like something, I would straight out buy it. I'll buy the entire season. If there's 3 seasons, I buy 3 seasons. If there's 10 seasons, I buy the 10 seasons. Whatever. I'll buy it.
Stargate.
If I like, if it's not, if you can't buy it anywhere, I'll make sure to link it to a streaming service. I might go as far as subscribing to a service just because I want to see that IP multiple times. And the frustrating part to this is I love the show so much, and no one had it. I obviously to this day, I cannot buy this anywhere. You cannot stream it anywhere. Like when I say streaming, I say like, your typical streaming services like Hulu, Netflix, Paramount Plus, you name it. And you guys make me feel so happy. I don't know if it was you, Ray, that said, look, or was it you? I can't remember right now. But you're like, here's the link. It is on YouTube. And I got excited.
That's Ray probably. He's the information gatherer.
I was excited because back then I would tell people about it, but there's no way for them to go out and watch it because it wasn't anywhere. And now I am so happy because I'm making an episode about this, and I'm telling you everybody about this episode. And I do finally have an answer to that question. It's like, where can I watch it? It is on YouTube.
Still watch it while you don't have to pay for it.
Exactly.
Well, unless you have YouTube Red, you've got to watch the ads. So
yeah, but
that's fine. More products I don't want to buy.
But where I was going with this comment or rant, depending on where it's coming from, is this show. I'm very curious to know what you guys think. If you guys watch this episode, all of you listening to this episode, if you watched that special unit 2, did you like it after you watch it? Have you ever watched this before? I am very curious because I haven't found anyone that has seen this before. Every time I mention it, no one knows what it is. And I'm very, very curious to see what you guys think. If you ever watch it, number one, I want to know that. because at least that doesn't make me feel alone in this. But if you never watched it and you watched it, what do you think? Is it something that you really enjoy? I want a reboot so bad. And I guess I should ask this to the two of you. Uh, is this something that you would like to reboot, remake,
Yes,
or
definitely
no? Which are the two? Both?
reboot for sure. And
Okay.
I think that the comedy is just gonna get better.
Oh, I think the comedy can get a lot
It has
better
to
for
stay.
you
It
too.
has to stay on that same note, though. Like if they try to reboot it and they change the whole thing, or they change like the nature of the characters, I think it's gonna be a total flop too. I
Yeah.
think that that's the essence of the show too. The dynamic between characters and their roles. It's necessary for the success of the show. Like that's part of what the show is. But
Yeah.
definitely,
Ray, what is your thought on that?
Look, there's always a place for shows like this, from Buffy the Vampire Slayer to something like this. Comedy horror, comedy sci-fi. You can't always have things dark and sad and horrible. It just doesn't. There's just too much dark and sad and horrible in the world as it is. We need a little bit of amusement and comedy in our lives, and this show provides that. Besides the wooden acting, I found the premise to be quite enjoyable, and I do want to watch some more episodes to see where it goes. Just reading some of the plot synopses for the episodes, I'm like, oh look, I'm in. I've got to check this out. I gotta watch more of this show because it looks like it's going to be a whole lot of fun. And while they've provided a strong skeleton to support the idea of the links, they're having fun with it. It's not too serious. It actually reminds me of a role-playing game that was written in Australia by a mob called Evil Hat Productions called Monster of the Week. This is a pen and paper role-playing game, not like a computer game. But it basically has that sort of Buffy the Vampire Slayer Monster of the Week kind of vibe to it, which I find quite interesting. So yeah, there's all sorts of links that you can draw to other properties and other IPs and other games and all sorts of things that run on the same sort of premise, the same sort of vibe, and it's a lot of fun. So I would recommend that you check this one out and watch at least 3 episodes and see where it goes. The first episode is a little bit wooden, but I'm hoping that they get into the roles a bit more and make it their own and really run with it.
Awesome. So those are final thoughts.
yeah, you can retract from that, Ray. This is not.
Awesome. It makes me happy that, and again, I really want to know from you guys if I was right, and this is a show that you enjoy as much as I do, or even if I'm not right, let me know. We are very, very open to know your opinions and suggestions. You can even call our hotline, and
And I
we'll
love
play
conflict. Bring it on.
it. We have Captain Chaos, so you know how it is. Okay, so are we ready for the next segment?
Oh yeah, sure.
Science and sci-fi.
Okay, so we all three have something.
Okay, this is
This,
getting weirder.
yeah, this episode, it's one of those that we don't have much, because to be honest with you, this is more concentrated into the comedy of it.
You can
And I
combine
don't
and
know
say
if you
the
guys
fantastic comedy because
exactly. So I don't know. Maybe I should go first because I feel like I have nothing.
and usually you're the most far-fetched one. You go.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, you guys are laughing, but it's true. I enjoyed this so much, and I've seen this many times, and every time I watch it, I just get so distracted into the show. I can't. It just my brain becomes mush. It becomes mush with all the laughing that I do in this show. It's just that hilarious to me, and I can't really think straight. so I feel the only thing that I have, it was an article that I was reading from livescience.com. It's titled, What's the Missing Link? And I felt that this was something that needed to be said for context on the show. Although, again, this show is concentrated on comedy and is definitely not hard science. I believe that there's something that needed to be said. Not sure if you are familiar with the term missing link. It's a term that is often thrown around um, to describe fossils to believed to be a breach in the evolutionary split between the higher primates, like apes and humans. And it's kind of interesting how this show talks about there is that missing link. We have gone from A to B, for example, but there is a branch A.2 that we don't know about that got lost in time, and we might have seen it in fossils, but we really don't know. And this show tells you, yeah, we evolved into a third arc or a fourth arc, or we had different arcs on that evolutionary tree. They are there, but we can't see it. And that's what the term. And again, I would have to defer to Ray for corrections on what I just said, if because I'm sure he has a lot of corrections in this. I just find that very fascinating uh, about that evolutionary tree and how we there's even you find pictures if you Google it where the first image is a monkey and the last image is a man, and then as you go through the image left to right, you see how the monkey is evolving, and there's different shapes all the way to transform into a human. So all that I took from this, in the way the show is trying to portray this missing link, is that they're claiming that in this particular universe that there was other uh, branches on that tree that we thought to be, just a step in our evolutionary tree that actually branched off, and that's how we got maybe gargoyles or lichens, or we know that vampires are just pure fiction in this IP. So
I'll just throw some words out there for you. Yeti, abominable snowman.
yes,
What's that one in the US that they always go on about with
Bigfoot.
that one photograph? Bigfoot, yes. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's always suggestions that there's other things out there that have are considered part of evolution, that the branches that were trimmed or didn't come to fruition. The whole concept here that the gargoyles make out that they're evolved from dinosaurs, which wouldn't be a missing link so much as a completely different tree that's growing next to ours. Wouldn't be so much a missing link as a completely different plant.
Well, can we think about it in a different perspective? Because we're talking about the beginning of that missing link tree to be monkeys, but can we add something prior to the monkeys? Is it possible there is more prior to that the gargoyles branched off of? I don't know. I was just thinking about that.
It's been written about a lot. There's a novel called East of Eden by John Steinbeck, which basically says, what if dominant life on this planet didn't just evolve from apes, but came from dinosaurs? And East of Eden talks about that. Like the gargoyles claim to be evolved from dinosaurs and became a sentient hominid species from dinosaurs. And East of Eden explores that as well, where on one continent you've got the development of humanity, and on another continent you've got the development of a species that came from the dinosaurs that became a bipedal sentient species. So and what happens when they clash? So yeah, I mean, there's all these sorts of possibilities. I mean, in the Babylon 5 universe, which of course you guys are going to have to experience one of these centuries. But Londo Malari, who's the representative of another sort of bipedal hominid. Yeah, they look like humans, but they're not. Species. They talk about their planet and how there was more than one sentient species, and they had to wipe them out to become victors, and that's why their species is so. Shoot first, don't bother with the questions, because they had to survive on their planet. They had to fight. What's this hashtag?
Let's start the hashtag. Yeah.
We have this private chat, and you'll often hear us laughing for no apparent reason, but it's because one of these bastards has written something really amusing in the private text chat. And
I'm tweeting it right now.
We need Robert to watch Babylon 5. It's the hashtag.
I'm tweeting it right now, and that way I clean my hands. I did my part.
Oh dear.
I love derailing this.
We're not going rails where we're going. We don't need rails. But yeah. So, God, what was I talking about? Yeah, East of Eden. Yeah. So it's not an thanks. It's not an unusual idea that sentient species could evolve from something else besides apes. And yeah, in this show they're talking about a completely different tree, not just a different branch. In that gargoyles have evolved from dinosaurs, and strangely enough, use English as their language to communicate, which I think is very interesting.
It's really cool.
I would have given this show props if at a very early stage of the induction process for the new recruit that she was given some sort of translator device.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah. And that, whacked it in her ear, and then she could understand what the links were saying. I find them all speaking English to be a little in that would just not happen.
Hey, Sci-Fi Channel, if you're listening, there's ideas.
And then that would have given me a science behind science fiction of Babelfish and the new Google Translate that you put in your ear and you get a near instant translation. So that would have given me an actual proper science behind science fiction link, which we don't have because Sci-Fi didn't think that far ahead. Anyway.
Awesome. Gio, you wanna? I don't know if you have something that you want. You were feeling just like I did.
I have
really
confidence.
Sure.
Huh? I'm confident. I'm confident in my stupidity.
Dunning-Kruger, eat your heart out.
On a little short comparison before I jump into the science, do you know what this reminded me when I saw the gargoyles? Dr. Stone.
Ooh.
Oh yes.
I just haven't watched enough the season 2, I think, of the 3 to see what's the actual science behind being a fucking rock for 3 million years. Yeah. But like on another note, like you remember, like at the beginning, he was using an infrared gun that blew up.
Before you move on, I gotta give context to the listeners. We have an episode on Dr. Stone. If you want to hear more of our thoughts, go ahead and download that episode. Really good property.
Oh yeah.
So go ahead.
Get excited.
It's an anime, everybody.
But it's all about science. Right, Ray?
Oh yes.
I wasn't involved on that episode, but if I was, I would have had things to say.
You think that besides the rock factor, it was not, I want to say, overloaded with science?
Hey, we could do another episode on it. We just
everybody's an M&M. Everybody's an M&M. They got a hard coating on the outside and the soft stuff in it.
Well, maybe we're gonna do the Dr. Stone's actual science with Ray.
That could be a cool episode.
Some work for that.
that could be a cool episode. I'm telling you.
Get excited.
They just like giving me jobs to do.
Believe it.
Anyway, getting back to this episode.
Yes. So about the laser gun, well, I think the infrared is kind of like a laser kind of gun. So I did some research about laser weaponry. It could be used for that, but we mainly use it nowadays for cutting machines, where it could be used for cutting plastics, steels, and everything else. Basically, laser cutting is a technology that uses lasers to vaporize materials, and also using combination what's known besides the laser optic, the CNC, which is a computer numerical control, which would control the intensity, the movement of that eye to make the cuts depending on the surface being worked on, to tailor the needs of the customer. And I find it quite interesting. I also use plasma cutting machines in the past, working on welding shops, which don't work that differently from because it's using heat, but it's more like a close contact technology too, where it melts down everything by doing the contact with a high voltage. And it was quite interesting to use it. It's tricky to actually have such a heavy piece of metal in front of a table and just go with that thing, and you feel like you're drawing actually a hole on it. And yeah, that's my science from our most trusted source, thanks to Ray, Wikipedia.
Yes.
Hey
And
man,
peer review, I
you
have
don't
to
make me
say.
feel ashamed about using Wikipedia anymore. Thank you, Ray.
Well, if you really want to harden up your research, Google it and then look at multiple instances, like not just Wikipedia but other things. If they all agree with each other, then it's fairly solid. But if you get a lot of disagreement, then you can't really claim things.
I'm
I
just
was
waiting
going to
for us
say,
to do. Yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, you can also look at the resources on the article for Wikipedia
Hmm.
and look at those. I mean, you might find some that are coming from valid sources,
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. But what I'm going to
If
do.
they reference proper scientific articles, you can be fairly certain that they're going to be quite accurate. But if they're referencing other websites and like he said, she said, then
Usually .org and stuff.net and stuff like that.
Well,
But
it
yeah,
depends.
.tv.
I'm waiting for us to have an episode where nothing but Wikipedia has it, so I can actually edit it before the show. So when Ray gets it, it's gonna be just the best.
Oh man, I feel like
Awesome.
I'm being set up here. But anyway,
I'm gonna put some
Okay, so
powerful
I
scale
guess
stuff.
we are waiting on now Ray's portion
okay.
of the science.
So yeah, this show did some interesting things that feel right. Did some things that just were completely wrong. With the gargoyles, a creature that has a very hard surface. Not unusual, turtle shells and all those sorts of things. They were talking about silicates and stuff, which is something that a lot of sea creatures put into their shells. They pull. They include sand into the excretions for the shells to harden them up. Calcium is another thing that's used a lot in shell formation. But these creatures were obviously, like, it would seem that when they were born, their surfaces were softer, which is why they had to capture humans for them to eat, and they couldn't go out and fight for the humans. And then as they grow up, their surfaces would harden and they would become tougher. And of course, the weight when the thing jumped down and boom, and it's going stomp, stomp, stomp. So they were saying that the creature had a lot of weight to it, and the grindy noises when they moved. Yeah, well, fair enough. That sort of suggests that the surfaces of them were quite hard and were grinding against each other and leaving traces of hardened material, which was interesting. And then there was the whole wings and can fly. Yeah, right. No, that's not happening. If you look at something that did actually evolve from dinosaurs, which is birds, the fact that they can fly is got a lot to do with weight reduction. So birds have hollow bones.
I have to disagree. Yeah. Actually, Neil deGrasse Tyson debunks that everything came from eggs that came from the ocean first, which is where the first signs of life were from.
Yeah. Okay.
So the egg was first.
That's fine. Yes, I know the egg was first. I wasn't arguing that. I already know
even our ancestors are eggs.
Because well before chickens evolved, there was eggs. That's fine. I'm not going to argue that one.
Even monkeys.
That's been proven. Yeah. But let me get back to what I was actually saying instead of what you were interrupting me with, Captain Chaos.
Captain Chaos.
So we believe currently the birds evolved from dinosaurs. There were pterodactyls and various other flying versions of dinosaurs, which then eventually evolved into the birds that we have today. And you can kind of see with the way that they move and claws and all those sorts of things are very similar to the fossil clawed feet that the dinosaurs have. So you can draw parallels there. But the reason that birds can fly is weight reduction. They have hollow bones. We have more solid bones that are less easy to break and have bone marrow in the middle of them. Birds actually have hollow bones, which is a weight reduction method. So you can actually see that a bird evolved to reduce weight so that it actually could fly more easily. Now, something that's covered in a very hard, heavy surface with wings, it's not going to fly. It's just not going to happen. So that whole gargoyle flying bit, unless there was some other magical force or some other force that they could try and explain away the weight versus the need for lift ratio, gargoyles aren't flying anytime soon.
It's a kind of magic.
It's a kind of bullshit.
It's because you cannot see the propulsion of the farts that will make them fly.
So they ate lots of baked beans, right? Okay, and spoke English, which was kind of convenient. But anyway, moving on from that. Now, if you were to have a sentient species that evolved from dinosaurs and somehow remained hidden in this world, rampant with humans, we are like a virus, peeps. There's way too many of us to be supported long term by the planet, unfortunately. But while we're busy killing the planet, these sentient dinosaurs managed to slip past us. But there is an evolutionary theory called convergent evolution, and this has been seen in quite a number of species which are not closely related but have ended up having similar physiological traits due to occupying the same environmental niche. So a niche in environmentalism is that they're living in the same area. So the definition of convergent evolution is when organisms independently find their way to the same evolutionary solution for the same environmental problem. When it says find their way, it doesn't actually mean that they were thinking about it. It's just the way it happened. I don't want to go into a big spiel about how evolution works, but basically there's regular mutations within every creature's genome, which is why, even as a human, we differ. And some of those, if we're affected by environmental pressures, humans really aren't, because we have the technology to avoid all that crap. But for animals living in an environment, if they're affected by the environment in a particular way, the environment changes in some way, certain individuals with particular mutations will have an advantage, and that means they'll get to reproduce, and those genes will be passed on, whereas the ones that didn't have an advantage won't. So those genes will die out. And that is basically what evolution is. It's random mutation that didn't kill you, but may give you an advantage in a certain environmental situation. And if that environmental situation comes to pass, then you get to pass on your genes, and your genes become more prevalent in the population. And therefore, that is how over long periods of time, for like marsupial mammals and marsupials and creatures like that have a slow generation time, it takes, hundreds, thousands of years, whereas things like bacteria that are replicating really, really fast, it can actually happen quite quickly. You can see evolution in bacteria over years, whereas with creatures like ourselves, if we were affected by environmental factors, then you'd be looking at millennia to see those changes.
Not that much. I think that we're going backwards now.
That's an opinion more than a functional, measurable thing. But yeah, so when you've got two creatures occupying a similar niche, or they don't have to, it doesn't have to be the same niche. Like they don't have to be physically present. It can just be a niche which is similar but geographically separate. They can then start evolving through random mutation physiological traits that give them an advantage in that environment and then start looking similar. So you have things like the Tasmanian tiger, which was a marsupial, which looked a hell of a lot like dogs or a dog that evolved in a completely different part of the world, but they had a lot of similarities because they evolved to fill the same sort of niche. Of course, Tasmanian tigers are considered extinct now because stupidly we wiped them out. But it's just an example of two quite well. They're both mammals, but they're different types of mammals. But they evolved to look very similar because of the same environment that they were in, and that environment drove the traits of those animals into a particular form, which looked very similar. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'm getting quite technical, but I'm trying to make it simple enough that you can understand what's going on.
As much as you could try to challenge my brain, I could understand it, man.
Excellent. So if you looked at humans and these gargoyles, if there was in fact a creature that evolved from dinosaurs, which had managed to have a population large enough to maintain itself and was hidden away from humanity, that's the tricky part. That there's just too many of us now for anything like that to be hiding on Earth, at least on the surface of the Earth. Then it is possible that we could look somewhat similar if we're occupying a similar sort of niche. But then there's just way too many people everywhere, so it's very unlikely at this stage. But then you get ideas like Babylon 5 with Londo Malari's people. I can't remember what they called themselves, but having two sentient species evolve on their planet, and they had to fight it out to see who would win. As an aside, I do remember a couple of years ago, the Chinese government was trying to insist that the Chinese people were actually a different species from the rest of us, and that they were evolved from Neanderthals because they just wanted to be different. But it's a lot of shit. But anyway, but the interesting thing is that humanity, like Homo sapiens, actually has a fair bit of Neanderthal DNA within our genome that they've recognized as Neanderthal from getting samples from old bones and stuff like that and comparing them. So it wasn't that Neanderthals were a completely different species. There was interbreeding that was going on between Neanderthals and humans before the humans went and wiped them out, because apparently Neanderthals were a little less violent than we were, and we beat them to death.
Yeah.
But that's the way the world works, unfortunately.
Oh, yes.
It's not the friendly place you might want it to be.
It's not my Disney fantasy.
No. The Disney princesses is more like the Queen Alien than the pleasant, friendly.
Awesome. So we have gotten to the conclusion of this episode. I thank you again, everyone, for coming one more time and listening to us talk about another property that we love. Again, I call out everybody to let me know, reach out to us, and let me know if this is something that you enjoyed after you watched, or if you watched it in the past, if there's something that you liked to have reboot or remake. We really thank you for coming every week and listening to us, and we really hope that you come back on our next episode. Bye.
Ciao.
Hasta la baby.
Speak a while.